So greetings, everybody. We're here at the On the Move to Better Health Kids Cooking School for Eddy and Foster County, and we are already week 2. We're lesson 3, and in this lesson, we're going to be talking about balancing a plate. So let's go ahead and share that screen, and we'll jump right into the lesson. Cancel. Okay, here we are. Okay, so lesson 3, week 2. So this week we're going to be talking about a balanced plate. So what does a balanced plate mean to you? And of course, the food model that we use here is a choose my plate, and it's a good representation about the things that we should be putting on our plate for optimal health. We'll look at the food groups, and we'll be also looking at them from a Native American standpoint, because when we think about the Native American influences on the American diet, there have been a lot of contributions from the Native Americans that influence our food choices today. So food groups and nutritional information. Traditional grains include foods such as wild rice and millet. More common today are wheat, oats, barley, and rye. When we look at traditional vegetables, that includes salad greens, beans, prairie turnips, wild potatoes, pumpkins, and squash. Most of these are still common today, but in addition, we have carrots and cucumbers and tomatoes and many, many others. Can you think of some of your favorite vegetables that have become tradition on your family table? The traditional fruits are berries, such as strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, and currants. What traditional foods have you eaten? Traditional fruits have you eaten? And what have your parents told you about the traditional fruits that are on your tables? At one time, we did not have access to fruits that were from the tropics or from the southern regions of the United States. But because of a great food distribution system that we have available for us today, we now have access to oranges and pineapples and pears, peaches and apples, and many, many others. The largest traditional protein sources that were buffalo, deer, elk, and rabbit. Traditional proteins also came from seeds and nuts. Today, we have access to those sources, but we also have access to chicken, turkey, ham, beef, and pork. Another dairy food group is the dairy products. However, some people are lactose intolerant and they cannot eat regular dairy products. However, most people can still have some dairy. Hard cheeses may be more tolerated than soft cheeses or milk. Dairy products to include such as milk, yogurt, and cheese. Low-fat dairy products are best because, of course, they are lower in calories than their full-fat counterparts, but they still can be used to build strong bones. And everyone 9 and older needs at least 3 servings of dairy per day. A serving of dairy is 1 cup of milk or yogurt or 1 1/2 ounces of cheese. Fats, particularly, and we talked about this last week, about what types of foods that we should be limiting in our diets. And we looked at that food label and we identified trans fats and saturated fats as not being the healthier choices of fats. So, and then the other thing is about extra sugar. We need to limit that from our diet as well. When we think about food and vegetables, they make up half of our plate on the Choose My Plate model. Add some grains and protein, each one of those making up 1/4 of our plate. We should make it our goal to include something from each one of these food groups each and every meal. So the Native American traditional foods, and how do they fit in our diets today, and how do they influence our diets today? The Native American tribes actually had a very healthy diet. They ate lots of lean protein, seeds, nuts, berries, greens, and they drank lots of water. They also ate trade crops such as beans, potatoes, corn, and squash. This is the Four Winds Compass, and it can help you balance a meal and represents how tribes ate historically. So you can see here how they had lean meats, and of course they did have vegetables and juices. Water was very important to stay hydrated, and starchy vegetables. Seeds and nuts typically fit into the protein or the fats category, but they provide healthy fats. However, in the Four Winds Compass, they also fit in what is called the East Winds group, and they can be eaten in that category. Although being heavy on greens and fruits normally is best. So what other foods do you think that could be included in the East Winds as part of the circle? If we think about that model again, the South Wind includes things like trade crops, corn, beans, potatoes, and squash. These are foods that are high in starch. They gave everybody energy. They also give them food, fiber, and nutrients. Other foods that can be included in this category are whole grain breads, rice, and other grains. We think about the West Wind bringing the rain, and that includes our water and tea. It reminds us that drinking lots of water and hydrating is important. Feel free to include more fruits and vegetables because they have they have high amounts of water in them. The Four Winds Guide does not include dairy by name, but it would be included in the West Wind. Remember to have about 3 glasses of milk or 3 servings of low-fat dairy products every day to help you to build strong bones and muscles. We look at the North Wind, which includes our 4-legged grass-eating animals such as buffalo, deer, elk, and rabbit. Beef and other meats can also be included in this category, but go easy on meats that are very high in saturated fat, such as bacon and sausage, or bolognas, very high in fat. Remember that no single food dominates the plate in either of these models that we are looking at today, either the Native American model or the Four Winds model or the Choose My Plate model. So other recipes you can try at home. This week, we will be demonstrating the Green Monster smoothie in the separate video. So find that on the YouTube channel on the playlist. And that's what we will be demonstrating. But feel free to try some of these other recipes. There's a fruit kebab with dip, the Hunter's Feast, that sounds like a very good one as well, and corn jacks. With all of these, when I think of the Hunter's Feast and the corn jacks, I think heavily of the Native American influence on these recipes this week. So when we think about all the foods, all foods fall into food groups, but some foods fall into multiple food groups. So when we think of these examples that we see here, we've got lasagna, casseroles, hot dishes, pizzas, hamburgers. When you sit down at your table tonight or over the next week, think about the foods that you're eating and talk with your family. Are these foods that are multiple food group dishes that grace your table? How do you classify them? And why is balancing a plate important? And of course, we know it's for it to help us have a healthy life and be able to help in the community for a long time. We want to be around for a long time to help our community. When we look at serving sizes, different foods have different serving sizes, and we're going to do some visual referencing here. So we're going to show some recommended serving sizes compared to common objects that can help us to use them as a reminder about how big our serving might be. So with fats, ping pong balls for nuts or nut butters, or the tip of your thumb for animal fats, 1 to 2 tablespoons. If we look at meats, we're looking at a deck of cards for meat or poultry, or a checkbook for fish. These are about 3 ounces. If we are looking at our fruits, dried fruits, a large egg or a golf ball. When we think of a small whole fruit, think of an apple. If you're thinking of cut up fruit, well, this is about half of a baseball. When we're looking at serving sizes for our vegetables, half a baseball for cooked vegetables and potatoes, and a whole baseball for leafy greens. If we're looking at our dairy foods, the serving sizes, when we visualize them, 6 dice is about the equal size of 1 1/2 ounces of cheese, and natural cheese, that is. If we're looking at the standard cup of coffee, and we've got to be careful here though, because some plates, when we think about our dish sets and the cups that come with our dish sets, when we're thinking about a coffee mug that, it's just, if you go and buy a coffee mug separately, those coffee mugs can be anywhere from 12 or 10 ounces, 12 ounces to 16 ounces for a coffee cup. So we've got to be mindful of that. Typically, it used to be that the coffee cups that you would get with your dish set would be 8 ounces, but I have even noticed that some of those are 10 ounces. So it's always a good idea to still use your measuring cup with that. And yogurt is the same as that. So a standard serving size for yogurt is a cup. So that concludes for this lesson. And I'll have reference you to check out the video on the green monster smoothie. And that is the recipe for lesson 3. Join us in a few minutes for lesson 4, week 2. And we'll stop this share right now. If you have any questions, please call my extension office. You can text me as well if there's any questions that pop up that you want answered. Anything that you would like to share, please share, and we will see you for lesson 4.